Let's review slope. So recall that our slope is always the change in y over the change in x, or you may have heard it described as the rise over the run, or height over rate. Either way you go about it, you still need to put your y's on top. Okay, and I know that there is a slope formula. I will write it down for you, but I don't typically use the slope formula because, number one, I see students all the time that mess up their signs with the slope formula. And number two, it's one more thing that you have to remember because I don't give it to you. So I use a little bit of a different way to do slope, but let's practice with a graph first. So in this graph, yes, I know it gave you points and you can find it with calculating slope from those points, but if they give you a graph, the easiest thing to do is to actually count your slope. So we're going to count from the left equation, left point, how many do I need to go up to be even with the right-hand point? And I go up 2. How many do I need to go right to get to that point? I'm going to go right 3. So my slope is going to be 2 over 3. And I can't reduce that. Let's take a look at the next one. Height first. So from the left hand point to the right hand point, I'm actually going down 2. So negative 2 is going to go on top. And then I have to move right a total of 4. Now when you do left to right or height over right, then that makes sure that you're always getting a positive number on the bottom, which is really what we want. We don't like to have negative numbers in the bottom for our slope. And then of course I can reduce that too. Negative 2 over 4 is really negative 1 over 2. So negative 1/2 is my slope. So when it's given to me as a graph, it's real easy to just count our slope. But if it's not given to me as a graph, I might have to do a little more work. Let's take a look at our special slopes or our special lines. And I have this in the classroom as well, but I gave it to you on your paper to help you. It is okay for 0 to be on the top of a fraction. Because when 0 is on the top of a fraction, like 0 over 2, 0 over 5, 0 over negative 3, the answer is just 0. You can always test that into your calculator. 0 divided by something equals 0. So it's okay for you to get 0 on the top because the answer is 0. It is not okay, it is never okay for 0 to be in the denominator. Because when we have 0 in the denominator, our answer is undefined. And that undefined is an extra little tool or reminder for you that that's actually what the graphs look like as well. Of an undefined slope, then that means it's a vertical line. That means that if it's a horizontal line, it's got a 0 slope. You can equate that back to kind of a real life thing. If a piece of land has a 0 slope, then that means it's incredibly flat. And, well, undefined is kind of like a cliff. You walk off a cliff, you are undefined because you're no longer here. So when I look at these two, there's not much for me to count. I can see that this is a vertical line. It's up and down. It's a cliff. I'm falling off. So it's undefined. If you're ever bored, you can go to YouTube and search slope dude, and there's a really cheesy story about slope to help you remember positive, negative, undefined, and zero slope. And the next one, I know it's kind of hard to see, but this is the line here. It's flat. It's boring. It has no slope to it, but we don't use the words no slope. We use zero slope. And don't ever use no slope to describe something that's undefined, because no slope is not undefined. No slope would technically be a flat. Now, these were all well and good to get graphs with them, but if we're being completely honest, we're not going to get graphs. The actual part of the standard says from 2 points. So let's talk about how we would do that without a slope formula. Now, if you use the slope formula, you already have it memorized, you get it right every single time, and you never make mistakes with your signs, go ahead and use it. As long as you show your work, I'm totally okay with it. But if you make mistakes with your signs sometimes, or you don't quite have it memorized, I really encourage you to give my way a shot. So the first thing that you do is you make a little T-chart of your points. So my first point, I have my X value and my Y value. Remember T-charts from like when you first learn how to graph? My X value is -2. The Y value is -1. The next point, the X value is 4. The Y value is -1. Just make a normal T-chart. We're not stacking anything else or rearranging. It should be like I took these two and stacked one on top of the other. Okay? Now, here's how you find the slope between that. You ask yourself, how would I get from -2 to 4? And the answer is I would go up 6 spots. How would I get from -1 to -1? I don't move at all. It's 0 spots. Remember, we always put our Y on top. So I have 0 over, whoops. That's what happens when I try to get fancy with colors here. 0 over 6, which we just talked about. It's okay to have 0 on the top. It is okay because the answer is just 0. The slope here is just 0. Let's take a look at the next one. Here's my little T-chart. I know I'm going to have a fraction in the end, so I'll go ahead and take one step out here. X and Y. The first point, I have an X value and a Y value. X value, Y value. How do I get from -4 to 2? I go up 6. And I realized when I was working these out, I happened to get 6 a lot. It wasn't on purpose. Apparently, I was just really channeling the number 6. How do I get from 2 to 6? I go up 4. So 4 is my Y value. It goes on top. 6 is my X value. It goes on the bottom. There's my slope, but I can reduce. And I reduce that to just 2 over 3. So my final slope, final answer is 2/3. Let's do it again. So I have my T-chart. I know I'm going to get a fraction. X's and Y's. X is 7. Y is -3. X is 1. Y is 4. How do I get from 7 to 1? I go down 6. How do I get from -3 to 4? I go up 7. And Y is the value that goes on top. So 7 over negative 6. And we always want to move that negative to the top. So we're going to make that negative 7 over a positive 6. It's just a good practice because when we graph, we always do the height and we always move right. And height can go up or down. Last one, making our T-chart. Of course, you don't have to get fancy with the colors. I just think it helps when we're learning to have different colors. It appeals to those visual people. We have 0 and 5 and 6 and 5. How do I get from 0 to 6? I go up 6. How do I get from 5 to 5? I don't move. So I have 0 on top and 6 in the denominator, which we know that it is okay to have 0 on top because the answer is just 0. Go ahead and get started on your assignments.